Do you find yourself oscillating between feeling like you're either doing too much or too little? Or maybe you're feeling overwhelmed with figuring out how to exactly optimize your week to be perfect. Or at times, feeling less than when you're comparing yourself to all the seemingly perfect women with their perfect lifestyle on social media. Hi, my name is Dia, and for the most part, I really dislike people telling me what to do, so that's what I'm not going to do in today's video. Instead, what I am hoping to do is to help you figure out where is your magic middle in a seemingly busy and chaotic modern day life. Because let's be real, all of us are going to have very different backgrounds, lifestyles, jobs, school, responsibilities, friends and family, which is why after every tip that I'll be offering today, there's going to be a series of questions that you can contemplate on for yourself. With increasing access to seemingly endless information in today's world, I want you to keep this quote in mind as I share these 5 tips with you today. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. I believe that no matter what it is that we're doing or not doing, having self-compassion is one of the sure ways for us to move forward and move through. I can be both a high-functioning person that is constantly chasing after goals, and at the same time, I can also be a potato that lies in bed all day having a great time. But the happiest version is one that does both and does not guilt trip her over doing one or the other. And it is precisely because the fact that I feel like I can always do more, there's always more I can do or accomplish or set out, that it becomes a recipe for burnout. And worse, it doesn't allow us to feel grateful, genuine gratitude for what we do already have. Studies have shown that joy doesn't necessarily precede gratitude. Instead, being in a state of feeling gratitude or grateful can actually create more joy in our lives. Whether you're overactivated, constantly striving, and feeling yourself spreading thin, or you're underactivated, feeling shitty about not doing enough, in either scenario, our nervous system does not benefit from compounded stress created by self-shaming. If our body and our nervous system do not feel a sense of safety, it will either remain stuck or try to bulldoze its way through by unhealthy ways of escaping or coping. If you are a self-improvement girly and you spend a whole lot of time reflecting and journaling and doing all these practices and constantly wanting to be a better version of yourself, put the books down and go out and enjoy yourself. Your true growth will not come to you on a yoga mat. And your chance to practice all the wonderful things that you've been learning is going to come from you actually going out there and living your life. If you're a high achiever girly and you have big and small goals and your social calendar is constantly full, see if you can sit out for this weekend's get together and spend a full day next week just with your own gorgeous self. Find some quiet solo time to see if there's anything your body or your heart wants to tell you that you've just been too busy to hear. Has being self-critical in the past gotten you closer to where you want to be? If so, in what ways? And if not, how can you start to recalibrate your internal dialogue so that every part of you feels supported to make effective change? When we cease activity, we kind of wake up in the trance we're in, the doing trance. When we're really not doing, it can feel like a mystery. And there is a lot of liveliness in this. If you're in your, I think, mid to late 20s or older, you might remember playing as a kid and coming up with these crazy elaborate scenarios in your head. For example, I used to pluck wildflowers and herbs and pretend that I was running a medicine shop and I would take orders on the phone. We knew what it was like to be bored, and we knew what it was like to use purely just our own imagination to create this world of magic and possibilities. Lately, I've come to realize that pretty much from the moment that I wake up to the moment that I fall asleep, there's hardly ever a moment of silence. I am either actively using my brain, working on something, or I'm actively or passively listening, reading, watching something. When was the last time you sat in a room by yourself in silence for 30 minutes? If it's been a while and you tried to do this, it can feel really uncomfortable. We live in a world today that is dominated by the mind, and I am one of those heady people myself. However, I think it's not about prioritizing mind or body. Rather, it's creating a coherence between all parts within our own ecosystem. It is much easier to listen to our thoughts than to listen and feel sensations in our body. Both are equally valuable. If you have a really hard time sitting down in silence, the next time you go outside for a walk, try staying off your phone. Don't listen to anything or don't call a friend. Just walk and be present in your environment. Notice what's around you and the sensations within your body and on your skin. What do you smell in the air, and how does the sun or the breeze feel on your face? How does it feel when your foot touches the ground? There are days when I sit in my chair and write or edit for 6 hours, 7 hours, or longer. And on those days, I make sure that when I'm done, I take myself outside on a walk, even if it's just 15 minutes, because otherwise I can literally feel my brain turning into mush. In what ways have you over-prioritized or neglected your mind, body, or spirit? Is there a disconnection between these things within your ecosystem? Are there practices or things you can add into your daily routine to create more coherence and balance? When we truly love something, we give it our attention. Would you be willing to dedicate just 10 to 15 minutes of your time next week to be fully present with yourself, without any distractions and without feeling the need to do anything? I saw a really wonderful video on Instagram the other day. This girl, she said, the biggest breakthrough she had on her healing journey was realizing this. It wasn't that her feelings were too big, but rather she needed to increase the capacity to hold those feelings. And that capacity is elastic. Just like a muscle, it's adaptable. If you're someone who veers on the side of feeling too much, and sometimes your emotions feel overwhelming, one of the ways is to experiment and see how can you increase the capacity within yourself to hold and be with those feelings. Because feelings are beautiful and they're nothing to be ashamed of. But I know how frustrating it can be when sometimes those feelings feel bigger than you and they overwhelm you rather than empower you. On the other hand, if you're someone that has decided to not feel anything at all, here's the caveat. You cannot gatekeep the good feelings versus the bad feelings. If you close the gate to it, you close the gate to it all, the bad and the good. Studies have actually shown that people who habitually suppress their emotions tend to experience less positive emotions. And because it is harder to practice in a moment of conflict with another person, we can first begin by practicing when we are having an internal experience or conflict. Next time you sense a small emotional or mental discomfort, see if you can just stay with it, even if it's just for 3 or 5 long breaths. And you can think something like this. I know what I'm feeling right now is an unpleasant feeling, but I can hold this. I can stay with it. And then allow it to naturally dissipate. Emotions tend to run its natural course pretty quickly, but the reason why we tend to make them bigger is because we add additional energy, resistance, and mental inner dialogue. This happened to me one time. It was a few years ago. I was experiencing a really tough moment after a breakup, and I wanted to do anything and everything I could to escape. But in that moment, I had remembered reading about staying with an uncomfortable feeling, and so that's what I did. I sat there and witnessed what I was feeling, and I allowed it to just be. I took deep breaths, and I paid attention to the sensations that were going on in my body. I recognized it was unpleasant, but I realized that I could absolutely contain and hold capacity for it. Lo and behold, in about less than 3 minutes, the feeling dissipated. And I know in the past, if I had not allowed myself to feel this and just maybe turned on the TV or, I don't know, grabbed a drink or something, it would have felt much worse, and this emotion or feeling would return at a later time. I think there's a time to let ourselves feel things and express things with people that we trust. And yes, there is a time to hold firm and not succumb to our every thought and feeling that arises. There has been a lot of popularity for women to want to lean into that soft life and just embody their most feminine self. That I think a lot of times we forget that no matter what gender you are, we embody both the feminine and the masculine, and both are beautiful. And depending on where you are and what you're going through, the scale might lean a bit more towards one side or the other. But I want to remind you that you can embody both softness and strength. And sometimes they're one and the same. Where in your life can you apply more discipline and set firmer boundaries? And where in your life can you allow more fluidity, flow, and tenderness? It's getting harder and harder to know which direction to go in today's world. Never have we been presented with seemingly more and more limitless options. It opens up a world of wonderful possibilities, and at the same time can cause us to become paralyzed with indecision. It's all good and fair to impulse purchase that viral TikTok face mask. I did. There is simply no way to keep up with the ever-changing trend and brands that demand our time, attention, and our resources, our money. Which is why precisely in today's world, it is more important than ever to take the time to get to know what your personal core values are. Let everyone else care and spend time and money and energy on the things that they care about. But you have to refine and get to know who you are and what things are actually important to you. Every so often, I will intentionally go on my social media and just unfollow people or accounts that don't inspire or educate me. Obviously, there's people that I know in real life, but there's many that I've crossed paths with briefly in my past that I really don't care what they're doing today, and I don't think they care what I'm up to either. Remember this, the people that really matter, they have your number. I know it's not easy when most people's first choice of addiction today is scrolling, social media or TikTok, but it is important to get really honest with yourself and to know that whatever it is you consume and put in your mind, just like what you eat and put in your body, it deeply affects your unconscious. As what we consume seeps into our subconscious minds, it has a direct influence over our sense of self, our desires, what we think we want, and then our actions. Our modern day challenges are not unique. Every decade or generation has its own newfound struggles. However, we cannot overlook the fact that our attention span, every one of us, are on a steady decline. And in a sinister way, without us even truly realizing how critical this is, all of us look to people on social media to tell us what we like and dislike, versus actually figuring it out by spending time with ourselves, going out there to have experiences, good and bad, to truly know what it is that we like and what our core personal values are. Instead of being completely present in any given moment, we want to capture it and save it and share with the world for that little dopamine hit. But I want to remind all of us that our private inner lives is full of ideas and creativity and magic.
What is one big time-consuming thing that you do every day that may not be the most nutritive or loving? And in what ways can you be more selective about when, what, and how you consume this thing?
A lot of times people complain that they don't have enough time to do what they want to do. But if you think about it, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. When something is truly important to you, you make time for it. It is a matter of prioritization. I had a really hard time prioritizing and setting my perfect weekly schedule when I was bound to a 9-to-5 job. So I completely understand. I think most of my viewers are in their 20s or 30s, some are older. The best time to start prioritizing your health and wellness is now. I personally wish I had started earlier. I was a pretty active kid and teenager, but then as I got a little older, there was a good chunk of a decade where I leaned into really unhealthy habits and lifestyles, and it wasn't until recently that I've refound my sense of love and passion for personal wellness and fitness. The truth is this, quite literally, if we don't have our health, we don't have the luxury to do anything. I think it's very natural for us, people that are younger, to prioritize on instant gratification versus investing in our long-term wellness, because we haven't had the long history to show us how our choices in the past have impacted our current or our future. But as with anything, there has to be a healthy middle ground. There are people out there that are training for 6-7 days a week and they're overtrained and they are refusing to go out and socialize because they're adhering to a strict diet. And there's also people that have forgotten how good it feels to move their body. They will actually say something like, oh, well, the people that are going to the gym are addicted to working out. And neither camp is healthy. So where is your middle? I would also be very wary of leaning towards any trend that is on the more extreme side. The problem is that it is absolutely enticing to see people post their own before and after pictures, but they are not exactly like you. Without actually doing proper research and consulting a professional to see if this particular diet or method works for you, for your body, instead of it being beneficial, it could actually be detrimental. In which areas of your life have you leaned a little bit too hard into your lazy girl era? And in which other areas of your life might you have become a little bit too rigid so that it's robbing you from the joy of just living your life? By listening to our own body and mind and spirit, we can use that as our inner compass to guide us to figure out where our magic middle is. And it may not look like someone else that you see on social media. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.